skill. Because, I mean, there are a lot of really athletic linemen who can't block, and then there are really, like, slow linemen who are great technique, and vice versa. It's always a mix.
Right.
But when I think of offensive linemen, there's no offensive lineman out here running a 4.5.
Mm-hmm.
So they have to rely on the
If there is an old lineman or any lineman run a 4.5, I would
4.6. I think Lane Johnson ran a 4.6. But again, it's like he was a former quarterback and a former receiver. He was a tight end. Lane Johnson was a bunch of stuff coming out of Oklahoma. And then there's about 3 other guys. The Saints left tackle ran a really fast 40. Shout out to Arkansas Pine Bluff. But I mean,
what's a really fast 40 for a lineman?
Anything under like a 4.9. Like 4.9, 4.8, 4.7.
So
that's insanely fast.
4.7, 4.9 is extremely fast for.
If you run a 4.7 as an offensive lineman, that's ungodly speed.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. That's like pretty fast. That's
like if anything under 5 seconds is great.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. If any lineman can run a 4.6 or like run anything below that, or even even like a 4.7, like
think
you said,
between
4.8,
like a 4.8 and a 5 flat, or even a 5.1.
That's still fast.
That's elite speed for a lineman.
That's fast.
A 4.8 is elite speed.
Yeah.
So it's like anything faster than that.
It's like, is he really a lineman, or is he? What else is he?
This dude was a skill player at one point. The athleticism translated
does
over.
Does that even work? Like a person who usually does like running back or like wide receiver or like cornerback, can they move onto a position like a
crazy
lineman
things have happened? I mean, some guys
and actually work.
It's rare, but Hassan Riddick, I mean, he became an All-American in college. He was a 2-star walk-on as a cornerback and became a 260-pound edge rusher, and he was a corner. Corners are not the most physical people on the planet, and they damn sure aren't the biggest and strongest. So he came in at like, I think, $180 and left at like 260. Whoa. Josh Allen was like a 2-star receiver.
That's literally, wow. So, wow. That's crazy.
A pure 80 pounds. Some guys add 100 pounds of muscle.
What was it? So that was just 80 pounds. I don't know what the guy looks like. So is that like 80 pounds of like just fat and muscle?
No, he's like, I'm talking like 5% body fat probably.
So he's just like eating like
yolk
lean,
and he's
like
fast.
Deer meat and egg whites and like
egg whites
and quinoa and like
I hate quinoa.
Chicken wraps.
Quinoa's gross.
Chicken lettuce wraps.
Yeah.
He's just like eating protein on protein on protein on protein, like protein
12
shakes,
meals a day.
Eat, breathe, sleep protein shakes and
college
meals.
athletes have to eat a lot.
Yeah.
Like college athletes have to.
Yeah, people who have a lot, like not that much body fat, it surprises me. I mean, it makes sense, but like it just surprises me how much they eat. Like obviously you have to eat to burn that much calories, but it's just crazy. Like The Rock and stuff. Like to see his diet and like how much they have to consume to get that way. It's amazing. Shout out to those. Shout out to that guy, because but gaining 80 pounds and only being 5% body fat, you're like, that's like some Superman.
And having elite athleticism, like the NFL has some of the best athletes on the face of the planet. And speaking of which, 49ers wide receiver Marquise Goodwin was an Olympian, and he says he'd win the long jump in 2020. He was an Olympian in the long jump. He competed in the 2012 Summer Games. That was like almost 8 years ago in London, and he finished 10th in the long jump after skipping the 2016 Olympics. He said he's ready to try it again. And honestly, him running a 4.27, him being as athletic as he is, he could probably do it again. I wouldn't put it past him. And the dude's been through a lot. Lost kids to miscarriages. Like, he's a strong, mentally tough human being and a supremely gifted athlete. So I'm not going to put anything past him because Texas has a great track and field program. One of the best ever. And like him, Tennessee Titans cornerback Adoree Jackson wanted to compete in the Olympics. was, I think, an All-American in track or close to it. Like, some of these DBs, some of these receivers and running backs, linebackers, excellent track stars. Like, the linebackers in this draft. Texas linebacker Gary Johnson, he ran track at Texas and ran like a 4.46. Again, a 4.4 anything for a linebacker or a defensive end, that's elite. That's like running a 10.4 in the 100 or 10.5, 10.6 even. And it's like that's reserved for running backs and receivers. That's elite speed. So when you see linebackers moving that fast, it's a problem. But I mean, everybody's faster and more athletic nowadays. That's just speed and supreme athleticism and coverage ability. That's where the game is moving nowadays. You don't really like. That's why cats get frowned upon for running slow. We just gotta be honest. If you're a skill player and you run slow, gets frowned upon. But anyway, now some somber news, unfortunately. And this is also in San Francisco. It's been a theme this episode. We just keep going back to San Francisco. Solomon Thomas, former top pick for the San Francisco 49ers. His sister committed suicide January 23rd of 2018 last year. And a lot of people are saying that incident, like, it remains there's a lot of go-to speculation on why his play suffered, why he didn't really, take that next step and get better on the field. But Thomas never acknowledged it himself. But now he's admitting that tragedy, like, played a huge role on why his play wasn't really all that good. And that's crazy. Because, like, his sister committed suicide, and he never talked about it. That's some heavy, heavy shit right there. God forbid it. I wouldn't want either one of my sisters to be in that situation. Like, losing someone to suicide, it's...
I could imagine how much guilt somebody would have.
Survivor's guilt is
right?
Definitely,
because you think like I should have been there and all these things to make sure that person would be there, especially when it's your sibling and your kin like that. It's unfortunate.
Yeah, but hopefully Solomon Thomas, he's a supremely gifted athlete. We all compared him to Aaron Donald coming out, so hopefully he has a resurgent year. Now on to a couple more stories. T.O. lost a bunch of memorabilia. I mean, athletes kind of get stuff stolen, lose it all the time. But in T.O.'s case, his memorabilia was auctioned off after he didn't pay a storage bill.
Sheesh.
In Atlanta. They sold all the items at auctions. He stopped making payments, according to TMZ Sports. It was a custom bust of T.O., old playbooks, autographed helmets, cleats, and even a copy of an NDA agreement that we're assuming the NFL gave to people at parties.
He's just been catching L's.
Owens told TMZ that he didn't know the items were up for auction because the company didn't contact him to give him warning, adding his people had tried to contact the company for years, but was given, quote-unquote, the runaround. Not surprised, because it's T.O., and famous people get their stuff stolen all the time against their will. Just ask OJ.
Bruh. Bruh.
But yeah, so story might have a happy ending, allegedly. So James Rice of Jan's Used Furniture in Griffin, Georgia, told teams that he'd be more than willing to give back the items to its rightful owner. We've heard that before. Ain't that right, OJ?
Bruh.
T.O., please don't go get your own shit. Have somebody else go get it. Okay. So, in this particular case, this next story, Sean McVay, his home was burglarized, and $20,000 in valuables were stolen. According to Rams Wire. So, again, another report from TMZ. 3 thieves, 3 men wearing hoodies, gloves, and bandanas broke into the house by smashing the back door. According to law enforcement officials, $20,000 worth of jewelry and purses were stolen. At the time of the break-in, nobody was home, thankfully, and the damage was done to the door. The extent of that, outside of that, really wasn't known. And his security system alerted the police, but the suspects were already gone. Last year, Robert Wood's house was broken into during a win over the Vikings on September 27th. And it was pretty much a part of a string of the burglaries that were happening in LA that just kept happening to famous people. Famous people kept getting their houses robbed. Now, do you feel like NFL players have to abide by a certain street code when it comes to how they move?
What's that street code? What do you mean?
In terms of like being robbed, carrying a gun. Should I not carry a gun? Should I have armed security? Should I not have armed security? Should I be with the people like Nip? Should I not be with the people?
I don't know, because I mean, I feel like NFL players should be a little bit less. Excuse me. Not as show offy and like all over the place with their stuff, because I feel like they are like, you have this much money, you're a target. So I mean, I understand live in a great house and all these other things, but
this is
like
the head coach we're talking about.
Huh?
McVay was a head coach, so like no one's safe.
That's true. I mean, but then again, where did they live?
Probably like a rich part of LA, so probably like Brentwood or something.
Yeah, so like I
didn't think they had break-ins in Brentwood.
I don't know. I mean, it's unfortunate. It sucks. I feel like they definitely need a little bit more protection, but I do think that people should be careful and be wary on where they live. I feel like in that case, you should probably live in a gated community, or maybe live somewhere where you're in the cut where somebody can't get to you. I don't know.
What would you do?
Me, I'm a very private person, so ideally, I would like to be somewhere in the mountains and the trees where it's like you have to get on the road, main road to a little side road, and then to get to my house is another road which takes you at least 5 minutes. And around, I can at least have some like crazy sensors or some video cameras so I can see you and then be like, yo, you can't come here. Because like I feel like as long as you're away from people, the more you're away from people, the less attention that you can seek. And I don't know, like I feel like, not saying they're asking for it because I don't want to sound like that person, but it's just like you're kind of a target. You're putting yourself out there. You know people are hungry in this time. People want money, and they see that you got all this jewelry and stuff. So, like, be more careful.
Interesting. Wouldn't you be afraid, though? Like, if something happened, you'd pretty much be by yourself and you'd be screwed?
That's why I would have more protection.
Serial killer, medical accident, you're by yourself. A fire, you'd be trapped in the hills, essentially. That doesn't scare you?
No. Because I feel like those chances are like, I don't know.
Slim to none?
Yeah. But, I mean, I guess, like, I could, like, be off-road and then fall into a ditch somewhere. Who can find me? That would suck. Hopefully I got OnStar.
A bear tries to eat you, you're like, oh shit, I didn't even know bears were in this neighborhood. I would have never moved in here.
As long as it's not a grizzly bear.
That's
and
true.
I have some pepper sprayers or like a bear spray.
You really think that bear
No,
mace
not bear.
works?
They have these bear sprays because I go up north all the time to go camping. They have these bear sprays that are like size of air horns that you spray at those things. But like,
I feel like that don't work. It would just piss them off.
I mean,
it would just like kill you harder.
If it's not a grizzly, if it's a grizzly, you're fucked. You're absolutely fucked. But if it's like a black bear or a red bear, they're pretty skittish, from experience. I haven't came across one. I've seen a few in person.